Have you ever had that moment where you actually know what you want to say? You can feel the sentence inside you, but when it's time to speak up, something just closes. It's like your voice gets quieter on the inside. Your mind starts racing, your heart speeds up a little, and suddenly you're thinking about how you sound instead of what you mean. And then the moment passes. Someone else talks. The topic changes. And you're left with that small, heavy feeling like, why do I do this every time? If that's you, I just want you to hear this right away. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not weak. You are not bad at English, and you're definitely not the only adult who feels this way. I've watched so many smart, capable people freeze in meetings, go silent in group conversations, or smile and nod while they're screaming internally. I have something to say, but I just can't get it out. And the real reason you don't feel comfortable speaking up is usually not vocabulary. It's not that you don't know enough. It's not that you're missing some magic grammar rule. Most of the time, it's something much more human than that. It's your relationship with being seen. It's what you believe will happen if you take up space with your voice. Because speaking up isn't just language. Speaking up is identity. It's risk. It's letting other people hear you and maybe judge you and maybe misunderstand you. And when you're doing that in English, a language where you don't feel fully like yourself all the time, that risk can feel even bigger. It can feel like you're stepping into bright light. Let me slow down with you for a second and make this feel simple. Speaking up has two parts: the message, what you want to say, and the moment, the social moment where you say it. Most adult learners focus almost completely on the message, the right words, the right pronunciation, the correct sentence, but the moment is where the discomfort lives. The moment is where your brain asks, is it safe? Will I sound stupid? Will they lose patience? And what if I say it wrong and everyone notices? What if they think I'm not competent? What if I interrupt? What if my accent is too strong? What if I can't find the word and I just stop? If you enjoy this calm, supportive kind of English practice, you can subscribe and come back anytime. No pressure at all. I just know that for a lot of people, having a familiar voice in their ear regularly helps them feel more relaxed and more confident, especially when speaking has started to feel stressful. Now, here's something I want you to consider. A lot of people think they don't speak up because they're shy, but many of you are not shy in your own language. You have opinions, you tell stories, you interrupt sometimes, you joke. You're quick, you're warm, you're bold when you need to be. So what changed? It's not your personality, it's the conditions, it's the pressure, it's the stakes. When you speak in English, you might feel like you're being evaluated. Not officially, but emotionally, like everything you say becomes a little test. And the problem with feeling tested is that your brain goes into protection mode. It tries to keep you safe by stopping you from doing the thing that might cause embarrassment. So you wait, you overthink, you edit, you replay the first words in your head. You check the grammar, you check the tone, you check if it's polite enough, you check if it's too direct, you check if the word order is right, and by the time you're ready, the moment is gone. This is why people who understand English really well can still struggle to speak up. Understanding is quiet. Speaking is visible. Speaking creates a version of you that other people can react to. And if you've ever had a moment where someone looked confused or asked you to repeat, or finished your sentence for you, or corrected you, even gently, your brain remembers. Even if that person didn't mean anything by it, your brain stores it like a little warning sign. Careful, that felt bad. Let's avoid that. So, the real reason you don't feel comfortable speaking up is often that your nervous system has learned to connect English with social risk. Not always dramatic risk. Sometimes it's tiny. A raised eyebrow, a small pause, someone saying, "Sorry, what?" A laugh that you're not sure was kind. But your body doesn't really care if the risk is big or small. It just knows, I don't like that feeling. And it tries to protect you. And here's the tricky part. The more you stay quiet, the more your brain believes that staying quiet was the correct choice because nothing bad happened. You didn't get embarrassed. You didn't get corrected. You didn't feel exposed. So your brain is like, great, we survived. Let's do that again next time. And then speaking up starts to feel unfamiliar, even scary, not because you can't do it, but because you haven't practiced being safe while doing it. I want to bring you into a few real situations because I think you'll recognize yourself and I want you to feel less alone. Imagine you're in a meeting at work, people are talking quickly, someone asks a question, you have an idea. You even know it's a good idea, but your mind starts doing that thing where it tries to build the perfect sentence before you open your mouth. You want to sound professional, you want to be clear, you don't want to waste anyone's time. And in that attempt to be perfect, you end up saying nothing. Or you're in a casual group conversation, people are joking, and you understand most of it. Maybe not every word, but you get the energy. You want to jump in, but you don't know how to enter without feeling like you're interrupting or like you'll slow everyone down. So you laugh at the right moments and you become the listener. And later, you might feel frustrated because you were there but you weren't really in it. Or you're traveling and you need to ask a simple question. Where is the platform? Can I get this to go? Do you have this in a different size? And even though the sentence is not hard, you feel your throat tighten because you're thinking about how you will sound to a stranger. And you worry they'll be impatient, and suddenly it feels like a big thing. So, what do you do with this? How do you actually start to feel comfortable speaking up? First, I want you to stop treating comfort like something you either have or you don't. Comfort is built, it's trained, it grows through repetition in safe moments. And it grows through giving yourself permission to sound like a human being. Because let's talk about what you think you're supposed to sound like. A lot of adult learners carry this invisible expectation that they should speak English smoothly, quickly, with perfect grammar, and with a kind of confident tone all the time. And if they can't do that, then they feel like they shouldn't speak at all. It becomes all or nothing. But real spoken English is full of mess. Native speakers pause. We restart sentences. We say, wait, let me think. We change our minds halfway through. We say things like, I mean, or or kind of, or actually. We search for words. We forget words. We use simple words. We say the same word 3 times because we can't find a better one, and nobody thinks we're stupid. It's just speaking. So, one reason you don't feel comfortable speaking up is that you're comparing your real speaking to an imaginary standard. You're aiming for a version of English that doesn't even exist in real life. And that makes speaking feel like performing instead of communicating. Now, another reason, and this one is big, is that many adults are used to being competent. You're used to being the person who understands, who solves problems, who expresses yourself well, who can explain things, persuade, negotiate, comfort someone, tell a story. And when you speak English, you might feel temporarily less competent than you are. Not as a person, but in expression, and that can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like you're losing status, even if no one is actually judging you. It can feel like you're stepping down from the confident version of yourself. So instead of speaking up and risking that feeling, you protect your sense of competence by staying quiet. And again, your brain thinks it's helping you. Here's a gentle shift that helps a lot. Stop asking, "Can I say this perfectly?" And start asking, "Can I say this clearly enough?" Clearly enough is the goal. Not perfect, clearly enough. And also, stop trying to say everything you want to say the main thing. Most of the time, you don't need a long, complex sentence. You need a simple sentence that carries your point. Simple is powerful. Simple is confident. Simple is easy to follow. For example, in a meeting, instead of building a perfect explanation, you can start with something like, "I have a thought here," or "Can I add something?" Or "I think we should consider another option." That's it. That opening line buys you time. It lets you enter the conversation, and once you're in, you can take a breath and continue. One of the biggest fluency secrets is that you don't have to plan the whole message before you start speaking. You can start with a doorway sentence, a sentence that opens the door and gives your brain space to keep going. And I know what you might be thinking, but what if I start and then I get stuck? What if I can't find the word? What if I sound awkward? Okay, first, getting stuck is normal. It's not a disaster, it's a moment. Second, sounding awkward is not the same as being unclear. You can sound a little awkward and still be completely understandable. And third, when you get stuck, you can use what I call a bridge phrase, something that keeps you moving while your brain catches up. Like, "Let me say it another way." Or, "What I mean is," or, "I'm trying to explain that." Or even, "Sorry, I lost the word, but the idea is." Native speakers do this too, by the way. We just do it without shame. The shame is the real problem, the feeling that if you pause, you failed. If you restart, you failed. If you use a simple word, you failed. That shame makes your mind go blank. So let's talk about the blank mind. That moment where you know the word, but it disappears. That is not proof you don't know English. That is stress. When you feel pressure, your brain has a harder time accessing language. It's like your mental library is still there, but the lights flicker for a moment. And the more you panic, the more the lights flicker. So what helps? Two things: slowing down and staying kind to yourself. Slowing down is not just speaking slower, it's thinking slower. It's allowing yourself a small pause without calling it a problem. A pause can look confident if you let it. A pause can sound thoughtful. A pause can sound like you're choosing your words carefully, which is true, and being kind to yourself sounds simple, but it's very practical because the words you say to yourself in your head affect whether you speak. If your inner voice is harsh, like, oh my God, you're messing up, everyone can tell, just stop, then you will stop. If your inner voice is steady, like, it's okay, keep going, you're fine, then you keep going. I want you to notice something. People who speak up a lot are not necessarily the people with perfect English. Often they are the people who are willing to be a little messy in public. They are willing to be seen while they are thinking. They are willing to ask for a word. They are willing to say, wait, what's the word? They are willing to laugh at themselves lightly and continue. And that willingness is a skill. It's emotional. It's not linguistic. Another big reason people don't feel comfortable speaking up is the fear of taking the wrong social tone. This is so common. You might worry about sounding rude, too direct, too soft, too formal, too casual, especially at work where the culture might be unfamiliar. And in some cultures, it's normal to speak strongly, to disagree, openly. In others, you need to be more indirect. And when you're not sure, you can hesitate because you don't want to create tension. So let me reassure you. In most English-speaking environments, people care more about your intention than your perfect phrasing. If you sound respectful and friendly, you can be surprisingly direct. And if you want a safe tone, you can add softening phrases that feel natural. Things like, I might be wrong, but, or just to share a thought, or from my perspective, or I see it a little differently. Those small phrases can make it easier to speak up because they create social safety. But I also want to say this. You don't have to earn the right to speak by being perfect. You are allowed to have an opinion even if your sentence is not perfect. You are allowed to ask a question even if you mispronounce a word. You are allowed to disagree even if you need a second to find the right phrase. Sometimes I ask my learners to imagine this. If you heard someone speak your language with an accent and they made small mistakes, would you think they shouldn't speak? Or would you respect them for trying? Most adults are kind, and even if someone is impatient, that is about them, not you. Now, let's go deeper into the real reason because I promised you the real reason. The real reason you don't feel comfortable speaking up is usually that you're trying to protect your self-image, the version of yourself that is competent, intelligent, articulate. And when you speak English, you worry that people will see a smaller version of you. That fear makes you hold back. But here's the truth. People don't actually see you as smaller. They see you as a person doing something hard. And if you allow yourself to speak, even imperfectly, you give people access to the real you, your ideas, your personality, your humor, your warmth, your leadership, your creativity. And that matters more than the smoothness. I've seen people transform when they finally allow themselves to be a little imperfect out loud. Their English improves, yes, but more importantly, their presence changes. They stop shrinking. They stop apologizing with their body language. They start taking up their space again. So, how do we practice this in a way that feels doable? I want you to start thinking of speaking up as a series of small reps, like building muscle. You don't go from silent to giving a long presentation overnight. You start with tiny moments where you insert your voice. A short comment, a simple question, a quick agreement, even something like, yeah, I agree with that, or that's a good point, or can you say that one more time? Those small moments train your nervous system to stay calm while you speak. They show your brain nothing bad happens when I use my voice, and over time, your comfort grows. Also, practice speaking before you need to speak. This is huge. Many adults only speak English when the moment demands it, like in meetings or phone calls. That makes every speaking moment high pressure. But if you create low pressure speaking moments, you build ease. You can do this alone. You can talk to yourself while you cook. You can describe what you're doing. You can tell a story out loud like you're telling a friend. You can practice saying your opinion about something you watched. Not to memorize, just to get used to hearing your English voice, because part of discomfort is simply unfamiliarity. Some of you are not used to the sound of your English voice. It feels foreign. It feels like it belongs to someone else. The more you hear it, the more normal it becomes. And when it becomes normal, speaking up becomes easier. Now let's talk about translation, because I know this is a big one. Overthinking often comes from translating word by word. You start with the idea in your first language, then you try to move it into English piece by piece, and you get stuck because the structure is different, or the phrase doesn't exist, or you're searching for a perfect match. Instead, I want you to trust your intuition. Start from the meaning, not from the exact sentence you would say in your own language. Ask yourself, what am I trying to do right now? Am I trying to agree? Am I trying to ask for clarification? Am I trying to suggest an idea? Am I trying to express a concern? Once you know the function, you can choose a simple English phrase that does that job. For example, if your idea is complicated, you can still enter with something simple like, I'm not sure this will work, or I'm a little concerned about the timeline, or what if we try a different approach? Those are clear, and you can add details after. Fluency is not having perfect sentences. Fluency is being able to keep moving even when your sentence is not perfect. And I want to normalize something else, and it's normal to feel a little childlike when you speak a language you didn't grow up with. Not because you are childish, but because your expression is simpler. Your humor might not come out the same way. Your personality might feel quieter. You might not have the same range. That can feel uncomfortable for adults because you know who you are and you want to sound like that person. So you might stay quiet because you'd rather say nothing than sound like a simplified version of yourself. But here's what happens when you keep speaking anyway. Your range expands. Your personality starts showing up in English. You find your way of joking. You find your way of being polite and strong at the same time. You find your way of telling stories. You become you in English, not a perfect copy of you in your first language, but a real version of you. It takes time, it takes repetition, and it takes permission. Let's also talk about the fear of interrupting. This is one of the most common reasons people don't speak up in group conversations. They wait for a perfect pause. But in many groups, especially fast-speaking groups, the perfect pause doesn't come. People overlap. They jump in. They talk over each other a little. It's not rude, it's just rhythm, so if you wait politely, you might never enter. A helpful approach is to use a gentle entry phrase. Something like, sorry, can I jump in here? Or can I add something quickly? Or even just one thing. These phrases are normal, they're socially acceptable, they give you permission to speak without feeling like you're being aggressive. And if you say them with a calm tone, people usually make space. And if someone keeps talking and doesn't leave space, that is not your fault. That happens to native speakers too. Some conversations are just dominated by certain personalities. In that case, you might choose a different moment, or you might speak directly to one person after. Speaking up doesn't always have to be public. Sometimes it's a follow-up message, sometimes it's a quick conversation after the meeting. That still counts. That still builds your confidence. Now, I want to address perfectionism more directly, because perfectionism is often the real engine behind silence. Perfectionism tells you, if you can't do it well, don't do it. And that sounds like it's protecting your reputation, but it actually keeps you stuck. Because speaking is a skill that improves through imperfect repetition. Every time you speak and it's a little messy, you get better. Every time you stay silent, you teach your brain that speaking is dangerous. So I want you to try a new belief. You don't need to feel ready to speak up. You only need to be willing to try. Confidence doesn't come first. Action comes first. And then confidence follows. Think about people you know who seem confident. Many of them are not confident. They're just practiced. They're comfortable with small discomfort. They've learned that they can handle awkward moments. That's all. And you can learn that too. Let's imagine a simple situation. Someone asks you a question at work. You understand the question. You have an answer, but your mind starts searching for the perfect wording. Instead, I want you to answer with the simplest version first. Even if it feels too simple, then if you want, you can add a second sentence. The first sentence is your anchor. For example, if someone asks, "What do you think about this plan?" Your first sentence can be, "I think it makes sense," or "I'm not fully convinced." Or "I like parts of it, those are easy," then you can explain. And here's another trick that helps a lot. Use honesty phrases. If you're not sure, say you're not sure, and if you need a second, say you need a second. You can say, "Give me a second to think." Or, "Let me think about how to say this." That buys you time and it reduces pressure because you're not pretending to be perfect. Adults often think they need to hide the process of thinking. But in real life, showing that your thinking is normal, it can even sound intelligent. Now let's talk about mistakes because I want you to truly make peace with them. Mistakes are not evidence that you shouldn't speak. Mistakes are evidence that you are speaking, and speaking is the goal. If your grammar is imperfect but people understand you, you succeeded. If you mispronounce a word, but you keep going, you succeeded. If you forget a word but you explain it another way, you succeeded. A mistake only becomes painful when you attach a story to it. A story like, "Everyone thinks I'm stupid," or "I embarrassed myself," or "I'm not good at English." But most of the time, other people don't attach that story. They just continue the conversation. They care about meaning, and even when someone notices, it's usually a quick moment. The shame lasts longer than the mistake itself. So I want you to practice a different reaction. When you make a mistake, instead of shrinking, just keep going, or correct yourself casually and continue. The casualness is powerful. It tells your brain this is normal, no emergency. Now, if you've had experiences where people were rude or impatient, I'm not going to pretend that doesn't hurt. It does. And it can create real fear. But I want you to remember that rude people are rude to everyone. Their impatience is not a special review of your English. It's their personality, their stress, their lack of kindness. And you don't have to carry that as proof that you should stay quiet. I also want to mention something that many adults don't realize. Sometimes the discomfort is not just about English. It's about speaking up in general, especially in environments where you feel lower power. Maybe you're new at a company, maybe you're in a room with senior people, maybe you're in a culture where you already feel like an outsider. English becomes the easy thing to blame, but the deeper thing is, I don't feel fully safe here yet. If that's you, be gentle with yourself. Safety matters. You can build it slowly. You can choose small moments. You can prepare one sentence ahead of time for meetings, like a question you want to ask or one point you want to make. Not a whole speech, just one sentence that helps you enter. And over time, those small entries change how you see yourself. You stop being the quiet person in the corner. You become someone who participates, someone who is part of the group. And once you have that identity, speaking becomes easier, because comfort is not just language comfort. It's belonging comfort. Let's also talk about the voice in your head that says, "They speak so fast, I can't keep up." That voice makes you feel like you need to catch every word to participate, but you don't. You can participate with partial understanding. You can ask for repetition. You can respond to the main idea. You can say, "Just to make sure I understood, are you saying that?" That is a normal professional phrase, and it actually helps communication for everyone. Sometimes speaking up is not having the perfect idea, and it's simply asking the question that other people are also wondering. And when you ask that question, people often feel relieved. They think, "Oh, good, someone said it." Now, I want to give you a gentle image to carry with you. Imagine your English voice is like a friend who's a little quieter than you want them to be. And if you force them onto a stage and demand a perfect performance, they will freeze. But if you invite them into a room, sit them down, and say, "It's okay, just talk," they start to relax. That's how you have to treat yourself. You're not a machine that produces perfect sentences. You're a person communicating. So the real reason you don't feel comfortable speaking up is that you've been treating speaking like a test of your worth instead of a normal human action. And your brain has been trying to protect you from the feeling of failing that test. Your job now is to redefine what success means. Success is not perfect. Success is participation. Success is trying. Success is getting your point across. Success is staying present, even if you feel nervous. And yes, nervousness might still be there for a while. That's okay. You can speak while nervous. The goal is not to eliminate nerves completely. The goal is to speak even with them and to show your brain that you can handle it. Before we finish, I want you to think about one small situation coming up where you could speak up just a little more than usual. Maybe it's asking one question in a meeting. Maybe it's making one short comment. Maybe it's ordering your food with one extra sentence, like, "Could I also get some water, please?" Maybe it's talking to a coworker for 30 seconds instead of 10. And I want you to decide now that it doesn't have to be perfect. Decide that you are allowed to be a little messy. Decide that you can pause. Decide that you can correct yourself. Decide that you can say, "Let me think." Decide that you can use simple words. Because every time you speak up, you are not just practicing English. You are building a new relationship with your voice. You are teaching your body that it is safe to be heard. And one day you'll notice something. You'll be in a conversation and you'll speak without planning. You'll jump in naturally. You'll laugh. You'll react. You'll say what you mean. And you'll realize you didn't translate. You didn't ask permission. You didn't wait until it was perfect. You just spoke. That moment is coming. Not because you'll suddenly become a different person, but because you'll become more comfortable being yourself, out loud in English. So if today you've been quiet, it's okay. If you've missed moments, it's okay. You're not behind, you're not broken. You're just learning safety, you're learning ease, and you can start small. Next time you feel that closing feeling in your throat, that hesitation, that wave of thoughts, just take a breath and give yourself one job. Enter the conversation. One sentence, one doorway, and then let the rest be imperfect. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be heard. And you don't need perfect English to do that.